Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Balanced Vibes podcast. I am your host, Kirsten. Today, we're going to talk about calorie deficits and also how many calories should be eating before you even go into a deficit. Because you probably know that you have to be in a decent place. You don't want to cut from a too low place. And today, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how you can change that so that you don't start your calorie cut from a really low place and why this is important. So first of all, why does it matter? Why is it important? Well, the big reason is your health, right? One of the reasons is your health, and it's always the most important thing in my opinion. So if you are already eating very low calories, then when you cut them down even more, then very likely your health is going to suffer. You're going to have chronically elevated stress levels. This means that your adrenals are not working optimally. They are just working too hard, pumping out all the cortisol and adrenaline too. So this is one of the areas. The other one is definitely thyroid. I've seen it so many times that people are telling me they have symptoms that show that something is up and I don't know what it is. So typically cold hands and feet, just poor cold and heat tolerance in general, hair loss, brittle nails, bad skin. So these are all the things that tell us that something's up with the thyroid, and thyroid is really sensitive to big calorie cuts. So if you have already been cutting your calories, you're right now eating maybe barely 1500 and you think that you should be cutting more. Meanwhile, you're having all these symptoms, then it just doesn't make sense. So your health is super important. And also if you have a lot of PMS type of symptoms, then this may also be a sign that you're just eating too low and you're not ready to start cutting any calories. So this is the first reason why you have to make sure that your calories are in the right place before you start bringing them down further. So there are other reasons too. And one of the other reasons is that you may just not get results at some point anymore. This easily happens with those people who are just over dieted. They have done so many diets in their past that now they have brought their calories down. They have done it multiple times. So every year or even multiple times a year, they do some kind of diet that takes their calories down super low. And they're just playing this yo-yo game. And they've been doing this for the past 5, 6, 10 years, maybe. It's always like big cut and then a little bit more again and a big cut. And eventually you get to the place where the big cut is not going to work anymore because your metabolism is just really weak. It's just really worn out, and it needs to be replenished. Your metabolism needs to be healed. So you cannot indefinitely keep taking and hoping that you will get results. And you may get results. This does work for a while. Like I said too, some people have done it fairly successfully, 5 years in a row. Every time they want to lose a little bit of weight, they start cutting more and they do it. And it kind of works, but it does get harder every time. And it absolutely gets harder when you get to the middle age, when you get to, let's say, late 40s, mid 50s and beyond, this stuff gets harder because now you have less of these supportive hormones, for example, that made things easier before. So we're talking about perimenopause and menopause here, obviously. And when we continue the same path, we continue to always cut and cut and cut during these years, we're going to be surprised because what used to work so well before doesn't really work anymore. And even if the calories are really low, again, you may see a little bit of weight shift, but it's never going to last. It's just so unsustainable. And your body is already really weak from all this dieting. So these are the reasons, your health is number one, but also the second one is you're just not going to get results if you keep cutting continuously. And in the meantime, you're not giving yourself enough time to recover from these cuts. And you're just like hammering your body with more restriction, and it's just not going to go well. So this is the reason why, as you probably already know, I put a lot of my clients to a reverse diet at first. So reverse diet, you already know what this is, but basically it means increasing your calories so that they are in a good place for you to start cutting them down. Because without this step, it's really going to be difficult to get anywhere for the same reasons that I just mentioned. And I want to say that, and this is of course a big generalization, but in general, I do want to see women eating at least 2000 calories before I feel like, okay, you are ready, you're good to start a cut. Now, like I said, this is a little bit individual. Not everybody's the same. And if we're talking about a very small, very petite person who maybe doesn't really need 2,000 calories a day, maybe there are some cases like this. But what I see in my work every day is that these women that I work with, most of them do need at least that. And if we're not there yet, if we're not even at 2,000 calories yet, then I really don't see why we should start cutting right now. And one of the reasons is that when we start cutting the calories back down, I don't want you to be starving. Okay, I don't want you to be starving. So if we take this time and build your metabolism up, which means that we're going to increase your calories, then when we go into a cut, then it's going to be a lot better, a lot easier. You can do it a lot easier because you're not going to be starving all the time. So let me give you just a few examples to illustrate that. How does it work that we increase your metabolism and how the cut is then going to feel more comfortable? So here I have an example. Let's say that there's a woman who's 40 years old. She's 5'5", tall and 220 pounds. So this person is now saying, hey, I really want to lose weight. And the first thing that I always do with all of my clients is to ask to see their food journal. So food logs on MyFitnessPal. I ask them to track everything closely, exactly the way they naturally would eat, and see where their food intake is at. And if now comes out that for this woman who's, again, 40 years old, 5'5", 220 pounds, she just doesn't have much appetite because she doesn't move a whole lot. She's sedentary and she is consuming about 1,600 calories or 1,700 calories just because she doesn't really have much appetite at all, which is understandable if you are really sedentary. Then what we want to do is to first increase the calories and add a little bit of physical activity so that we can get your daily calories to at least that 2,000 point. Because now when she's consuming only 1,600 or 1,700 calories, that is really close to her BMR. So BMR is basal metabolic rate, and this is the estimated amount of calories that a body needs in order to just do its daily things that it needs to do. Keep you breathing, keep your heart pumping, keep your digestion going, perspiration, all these things happening. And so this is what your body needs, bare minimum, even if you don't move all day long. So now let's say the BMR for this person is 1,600 or 1,660, and she's eating only 1,600 or 1,700 calories. Can you see that if we cut down from here, where are we going to end up? We're going to end up with some health issues, like I mentioned before. So if you're doing your calorie cut on your own, you always want to make sure that you never cut under. You don't reduce so that your calories are now less than your BMR. This becomes a health issue, but a lot of people ignore that. By the way, I want to say here, if you don't know what your BMR should be and how to calculate that, go ahead and get my Lean Ladies Calorie, Protein, and Workout Guide. It is linked in the show notes. It's definitely super valuable and shows you exactly how I calculate things for my clients as well, so you can use it yourself. But coming back to this person now, she's eating 1,600, 1,700 calories, and instead of cutting down right now, which we cannot do because that would take us to less calories than her BMR. So this is a big no. Like no coach should ever do that, right? No coach should ever do that, or no diet program that should ever do that. Instead, we're going to increase her food intake gradually, and we're going to increase her physical activity. So again, I want to point out one more time, there's so many just crappy, horrible, irresponsible diets out there. And I've seen them. I have clients who have come from these diets where they literally ate 1,000 calories worth of packaged things, right? And now whose BMR is 1,000? No adult woman has a BMR of 1,000. Okay, again, maybe not no, but most adult women don't have a BMR of 1,000 calories. But these diets put you on this low calorie intake. And this is extremely stressful for your body. And so many women develop really bad hormonal issues. And then later on, they have to work on their nutrition. They potentially have to work with the health care practitioner who is hopefully more of a holistic kind, not just like a regular doctor who prescribes prescription medication, but you may want to work with like a holistic health practitioner to get your hormones back on track, to get your mineral status back on track, all the things that went really bad when you were on this 1,000 calorie diet. So we never want to cut calories so low. All right, I keep moving away from this one example, but there we are, right? So she's eating 1,700 calories. We're going to start increasing her calories so that we can get her to at least 2,000. And then we can see, can we increase even more? Or maybe it is a good time for her to start a cut. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start lifting weights, obviously, right? Because strength training is what will speed up your metabolism because it puts muscle on you, right? So we're going to start strength training. It depends on a person. Some people can literally start with one training session a week. Some people can start 2 or 3. And we're going to, let's say we start with 3 workouts a week, and then we're going to increase the steps. So let's say that this person here is very sedentary, walks maybe 2,000, 3,000 steps a day. We're going to increase 5,000 this first week, right? It doesn't have to be overwhelming. We don't have to go from 2,000 to 10,000, but we're going to increase the steps gradually. And typically, if everything goes well, then we go every week, we add about 1,000 or 500 until we get to the place of, let's say, between 8 and 10,000. And so when we do these things, and when we also increase food intake, the metabolism will pick up its speed and it will get faster and it will start burning calories. So your daily calorie burn actually will go higher, right? And this is a good thing. Your metabolism is, so to speak, going to wake up. And now when we, as a result of making these changes, giving you more food, taking more steps and increasing your workouts, when we get to the point of about 2,000 calories, then we can reassess again and see, okay, maybe can we push the calories a little bit more without you putting on body fat? Because the whole point during this process is also that you don't put on a whole lot of body fat at all. So when we do that, when we can push the calories even a little bit higher, that's better. And why is this better? Because then we're going to increase the metabolism even further. You're going to have more health, more resilience, more flexible metabolism. And the cut that we're going to do is going to be easier, because now when we can cut from 2,000 calories, you're going to eat more versus cutting from 1,800 calories, right? So this is a big thing here. So I hope that this makes sense here. So I have another example here too. So this woman here is 5'8" tall, 55 years old, and weighs about 180 pounds. And so when we do the BMR calculation, we get that she is burning 1,489 calories per day. So this is her BMR, not including the workouts yet, right? But she does work out a little bit. So she does 3 kind of light, medium workouts, and then walks about 6,000 to 8,000 steps. And so we can estimate that her total daily energy expenditure is about a little bit over 2,000 calories. But what we can do here, instead of starting the cut right away, what we can do here is we can improve the workouts, right? So in the first example, we had a person who wasn't working out at all, very sedentary. So she got started with workouts. It's great. But even in a second person's case, we can still see, what are the workouts like? Because I see a lot of bad workouts. I see a lot of bad workouts and people are just really unaware. They think that these are the good workouts, but they're not. So a typical example of that would be a 30-minute circuit with alternating upper body and lower body movements, lots of movements where things are, you have like 2 movements in one. For example, you do lunge and curl, or like a lot of movements like that, instead of maximizing just one part of that lift, right? And I'm not saying that these movements are always bad. I do have some of them in my own programming too, like squat press, for example. I think it's a good one, but your entire program shouldn't look like this. You can't be like lunge and curl and squat and press and 5 other combined exercises. You don't want to do too many of them. And if you do these 30-minute circuits where you only have 15 to 20 seconds of rest, this is not the good work. This is not the type of good workout that will actually build your muscle, boost your metabolic health, increase your metabolic rate. This is not it. So what we can do in this woman's case, so it's doing these 3 light circuit workouts, we can start lifting real weights. We can start using real programming. And that's going to look like straight sets for the most part, maybe some supersets at the end of some workouts, but not always. Mostly straight sets, plenty of rest, at least a minute between the sets. And I got to say, honestly, the closer you are to menopause, you're going to need go heavier with heavier weights and longer breaks. So, at least a minute, sometimes even up to 5 minutes of rest between the sets. Challenge yourself with really heavy weights. And this is what is going to now increase your metabolic rate. You have to understand that these small, tiny circuits, they don't put muscle in you. They just don't. And again, coming back to this, perimenopause and menopause age, we have natural decline in estrogen anyway happening during this time. And estrogen is the hormone that actually really supports muscle gain. So now when we start losing estrogen, we have to do everything we can to keep that muscle on. But this muscle doesn't stay on from these tiny little light circuits, right? So you have to understand that. And I feel like I talk about it so much, and still people are saying, but it's not working. And when I'm asking, what do your workouts look like? I hear that they're 30-minute like circuits with 15 seconds of breaks between the exercises. And this is exactly what you don't want to do. Like, these workouts are fine for general fitness, for improving your cardiovascular health, for fun, or I don't know what, it's okay for that. But if you want to get strong and you want to kind of, maybe fight is not a good word. This sounds really aggressive, but if you want to really keep that muscle on, and maybe fight a little bit to keep that muscle on, then you have to train differently. So now coming back to this second example. So previously she was doing these 3 light circuits, 6,000 to 8,000 steps per day. Her total daily expenditure was about 2,050 or so. So now when we start using these better workouts and maybe bump up the steps too a little bit to 10,000, maybe even 12,000, we may get to the place where she can now eat more without gaining body fat, and we can get her calories up to 2,300, right? So now, guess what is a better place to do a cut? The original 2,050 calories or 2,300 calories, right? So if we I typically start with 15% deficit when we go into a cut. So if I do that from 2050, that's going to be something like 1750 calories, which may not sound like terribly low, but if we could do that 15% deficit from 2,300 calories, then the deficit would be 1,955 calories, right? Which one is better? What do you think? Which one is better? So deficit that looks like 1,750 calories or deficit that looks like 1,950 calories. We're talking about 200 calorie difference here. And of course, the higher is better. It is better because you will have less hunger, right? You will feel that I can stick with this longer because it feels doable. Awesome. Maybe the first time you've ever been a calorie cut, then it feels like it's doable. And another reason is that if we need adjustments, which is what most people do in their weight loss, fat loss journey, then if we have started from a higher point, we have a little bit more room there. Because again, if we cut, if we don't have too many calories to play with, then we get, we cut at, 1,750 calories. Maybe the BMR comes a little bit too close to it. Maybe the BMR for that person is 1,600. And so we are also only 150 calories away from it. Versus if we cut with 1,955 calories, we still have a lot of room to cut more if we need to, without getting terribly close to the BMR. So a lot of numbers today, and maybe a little bit all over the place. Maybe it sounded like it, but my point here is that try to really increase your metabolism and try to increase your food intake before you start a cut. Don't start from a random place. Like, prepare yourself a little bit. Give yourself a little bit of time. Don't rush it. And if you're listening to this, you probably listened to this in December. I'm pretty sure this is when it airs. Now is actually a pretty good time to eat a little bit more because it is the holiday season. The food is everywhere. There's so much more of everything. And doesn't mean that you should be eating like a crazy person and, absolutely not care about what you're eating. No, we still want to eat healthy, but maybe you can eat just a little bit more and put a little more effort into your workouts. Challenge yourself with weights. See, can I beat my PR? What if I can? When was the last time I tried? And you may notice that with this added energy that you got from eating more food, your lifts are stronger. You are stronger. And now you give yourself this month, maybe you give yourself a little more time to build that metabolic strength up. You're going to also help your adrenals a lot. Your stress levels will probably go down because you're not starving and cardioing all the time if you did that before. Your body is feeling better, your energy is better, mood is better, sleep usually improves. A lot of people tell me that. So this is going to be a lot better place to reduce your calories when you're ready versus starting the calorie cut from a place where you're not ready, when the calories are too low and you are stressed and you have obvious signs of stress. So this is another thing. If you have really clear signs of stress, you may be like, yeah, okay, doesn't matter, whatever. Again, that might work if you're in the 20s and 30s. Okay, cool. Yeah. But then if you get to your 40s and 50s and you just try to ignore all these things that are showing up, in your health, and you just try to still push through and maybe just use supplements to cover things up, it's not going to work this way. These things are going to come out and the body fat loss is going to be so much more difficult. So you really have to put your health first, make sure that you are well prepared before you start your calorie cut, and just stay patient. Sometimes people really they get impatient and maybe like, oh my goodness, you want me to eat 2,000 calories for how long? And when I'm like, well, 4 months, then they're like, what? Like, this is nuts. I've never done something like this before. Just because you've never done this before doesn't mean that it's the wrong thing to do. Maybe that is the right thing to do. And that is the reason why you're here, right? Because you've done the previous approach for who knows how many times, always without any preparation, without rebuilding your metabolism first, without doing any of that, beforehand. You've jumped right into deficit, and then the result has always been the same. You lose a little bit, and then the weight always comes back. So you have to just like change the way you think about the calorie deficit, the way you think about your nutrition and your health and your results, and just take a different approach, have more patience, and not, as always, not focus so much on the scale, as you already knew that I'm going to say that. So this is all. I hope that this was helpful and informative. And if you have any questions about this, please let me know. Also, don't forget that my Lean Ladies calorie, protein, and workout guide is the resource where you can figure out how many calories you need for your goal, whether the goal is to cut, to maintain, or to even bulk, which is really cool. So get that guide if you don't have it yet, and please let me know if you have any questions. All right, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.